People have been rebuilding and reviving old internet games for years, but it brings into question how permanent things on the internet really are, and what does it take to preserve the internet? Let's talk about that. Now actually, before we get into the real gist of this video, I just want to thank everyone for the massive support that I received on my last video. I was not expecting that at all, but I could not be more grateful, and I'm really excited to see where this goes from here, and just thank you for all of that. Thank you to all of my new subscribers, everyone who watched that video, just thank you, it warms my heart. And wait, in the coming weeks there's going to be some kind of like commemoration thing for all of my new subscribers. I'm really excited. I'm like kind of figuring out exactly what I'm going to do for that, but just thank you. But let's get into what you're actually here for and get into the video. After a Twitter post detailing the story, as Twitter put it, the story of how a 9-year-old got drunk on power during Neopets' heyday. This sparked many people to reminisce in their own glory days of Neopets, and return to the beloved webpage. Now, while for many millennials it ended with Neopets, for me a resident Gen Zer, a Zoomer, what other dumb names they're trying to give us. Either way, this led me to remembering an offshoot from Neopets, PetPet Park. The only evidence you can find of it on the Neopets page is an old announcement when the beta was starting. If you click on the old link to the webpage, you're brought to a page informing you that you can buy the domain. But hey, if you want a step-by-step on how to draw 2 of the PetPet species, then they do have that on the Neopets website. Needless to say, PetPet Park was shut down. It happened back in 2014 after PetPet Park was bought out by Jumpstart. But let's instead focus on what PetPet Park was like before its unfortunate closing. Like Neopets, PetPet Park was a web browser game with the target audience being kids. However, it was more akin to an RPG than a series of mini-games and discussion boards like Neopets was. PetPet Park was a series of worlds and had a series of missions in each world. You would collect items and explore to help various NPCs. It did have some mini-games of its own as well. You earned coins, you could buy clothing and other things to customize your pet. If your parents were willing, they could spend money and get you even more customization and fashion options so you could flex on all the other children with the membership. In the world, you could find and talk to other players. I vaguely remember friend options and you could hold parties at your house and stuff like that, but I don't really know. My parents were not too keen on me talking with strangers on the internet, and I hadn't yet stopped listening to my parents. Children, make sure you are listening to your parents. Follow what they tell you to do, stay in school, don't do drugs, okay kids? Listen to your parents. There was also much more that I'm sure I don't remember from the game, because some of it was a little bit random. Like, you had the ability to have like your own pets that would follow you around, okay, that's pretty standard, but you could also like farm at your house, and there was a card game that was a lot like Hearthstone. I was abysmal at it because I was very, very small, very young, and unable to logic the amount that was necessary to play a strategy card game. But in retrospect, that's a fun idea to add into the game. It was something very different, and it was kind of interesting. And I liked it even though I was not winning any games at the time. And it's always good to start the children towards the nerd path early, okay? You gotta make sure they're doomed for life. It was really fun, and honestly something that started me down the RPG pathway, something really significant to me now, but that's a topic for another video. And in general probably helped spark my love for games that I still have to this day. I was playing this game up until the day it closed, and I mean that literally. I was pretty bummed when it did. But baby me had no way to anticipate a very exciting thing that wouldn't start until 2015.
You mean bread and butterfly?
Oh, yes, of course.
People are trying to rebuild PetPet Park, and have been for some years now. They take snippets of what they can find from developer versions of things to splicing together bits of the map and more. I'm more than impressed by this. They have builds of some of the gameplay and have put together a lot of the maps. Honestly, just seeing these maps really jogged my memory of fun days filled with playing this game. And as someone who has built some very basic games, it's hard enough when you have your own assets to work with and you're like, okay, I can change things, but like they're just rebuilding based off of what other people have made, and it's really cool and impressive. In the past, we have seen people make rebuilds of old childhood games. One notable example is Club Penguin. They did a total rebuild and even keep up on the social media and update their page with various weekly events and art and different things like that. I find it really interesting that people are willing to put in so much effort into something seemingly so insignificant as an old game from the 2000s. I find it really interesting that of all the things that are out there, all the things that they could choose to capture, to rebuild, they chose this one specific thing. Why would they do that? Why choose that thing? Although really that's not so different from how a lot of preservation of history happens. Ai Weiwei is a Chinese artist and activist. He has created many prominent and controversial works. When such work named Dropping a Han Dynasty Urn, he does just that. In fact, to create the piece, not one but 2 urns were destroyed, as the first was not properly captured by the photographer. This has sparked many debates over the morality of the act, the right of people other than the artist to destroy such things, but the one I want to focus on today is what is the real value of those urns? Technically, the estimated value is around $1 million. And many an angry historian would value the cultural loss even more significant than this. Ai Weiwei responds to this with a quote, "It was industry then, and it is industry now. This could have many interpretations. Is it to talk about the current mentality of the Chinese people and government, as many of his works are critical of such? Or is it, like one journalist interpreted, to do with the literal creation of the urn? To quote, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions were made in proto-factory situations. For all the aura of preciousness acquired by the assertion of time and skillful marketing, this vessel is the Iron Age equivalent of a flower pot from K-mart. And if one were to smash the latter a few millennia from now, would it be occasion for tears?" This touches on the question, what is the real value of any artifact that we find and choose to preserve? What makes that one special? In many cases, it is all that we have from a certain time period. But from some eras, we have many pieces from the time, and museums won't take everything that they're given. Something that comes to my mind is YouTuber Abby Cox. She buys antique clothing from people as well as receives some from her subscribers and preserves them in her own collection. Here's a quote from one of her videos. "I buy a lot of wounded birds because these babies are never going in a museum, and they are never going to be appreciated in a museum, but I'm going to take care of them here." It seems a bit strange to me, at least, that there is so much outrage over the destruction of some historic artifacts, but then the same people will not preserve other artifacts that, if left in a layperson's hands, these artifacts will likely not be given the proper care and suffer damage as a result. However, like always, money comes first. Even if a museum wanted to take in every article offered for donation, they have budgets and can't spend the time and money to keep these many artifacts in the proper conditions, as they have a moral and legal obligation to do so. Instead, museums must choose based on a myriad of factors to take items in. I suggest you go to one of the links in the description, hopefully I will indicate which one here, for more specifics. By excluding certain pieces, museums are choosing what pieces of history get their stories told. What gets passed on as noteworthy, and what do people learn about history? This can cause some issues. Even with animals, there's a bias with gender roles being reinforced and us having more of certain animals based off of region, some of which is related to colonialism. This only gets worse when you move on to cultural preservation. Oftentimes, museums' biases will play into what gets displayed. While this could be small, like what is considered too crude, can also lead to misinformation. One notable example is the Civil War. It's a well-known fact that many museums and commemorations in the South are biased, and they gloss over the prevalence and cruelty of slavery and racism. I recommend you watch the MSNBS The Ghosts of the South documentary. It is extremely informative, and it's a great watch. I think it's pretty short. I'll link it down below as well. This misinformation is all due to people's biases and emotions related to the events. What they are choosing to display isn't based off of facts, but their emotions on what really happened. Or what about family heirlooms? While sometimes it's for the monetary value of the items, for the most part, people hold on to them because of an emotional value. We haven't been able to escape the prevalence of our emotions even in our preservation of facts and history. So what does this mean for the future? You are constantly warned that everything on the internet is permanent, and while I would still heed this advice in order to make sure you don't say anything that you can't take back and keep any potential future schooling or job opportunities, this doesn't mean every tweet will be inspected by historians. There are simply too many of them. There have been attempts to archive every single post from various social media sites, but there is simply too much of it for it to be efficient or effective. In fact, it's currently being worked out by professionals on how to best capture the internet for future historians. Because as of right now, not everything is truly being saved and documented in a way that will be analyzed or will be able to be analyzed by historians. If no one puts the effort into finding and documenting a certain thing, then it's as good as lost as far as the future people know. They're good as gone, and even if they are technically out there and the data is there, if no one remembers how to find it, then it might as well be gone. So as of right now, the only way the internet is being documented is by people willing to put in the time. The Wayback Machine, the Library of Congress is attempting, and the PetPet project. Maybe it's okay that so much effort is being put into something seemingly so insignificant, because it's a part of the experience from the internet from this time. It is a part of our understanding of how the internet is. And anything's preservation is based on people, for whatever reason, caring enough about that thing to make sure it carries on. And that includes the rebuilding of PetPet Park. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like always, the links for my sources are going to be down in the description. Also in the description is my Twitter if you want to start a conversation about this topic or anything else, if you want to suggest a topic. You can also do so in the comments down below. This was a bit of a longer project for me, mostly because I was getting lazy and procrastinating. So hopefully the next one won't take as long. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm unsure, but I'm like, I hope you guys understood the message of this. I can just put up something new if you guys are confused at all, probably on my Twitter, honestly. But then I also have a question for you guys. So if you go any farther than one video back, I did gaming content, and that included weekend live streams. So if you guys would be willing to watch some more weekend live streams of gaming or art, also put that in the comments down below, because I feel like that'd be something fun to kind of spice things up. But I understand if you guys you're not here for that, and I'm not going to be offended. It's all good, just want to ask. But I hope everyone is having a wonderful time whenever you see this, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.